Well, it is the end of another week, and of course, it had its own fair share of stories. And of the many stories that made headlines that caught my attention is that of the healthcare workers dying from contracting the coronavirus. And so far, in the Western Cape province, about 6 public healthcare workers have lost their lives to this disease. And now joining us here in studio is my colleague Nosipho Mncube, an SABC News journalist, who would like to share with us about some of the stories that caught her attention. A very good morning to you, Nosipho. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live. I mean, we wrap just another eventful week. So much happened, and so much, controversies and debacles, in the past week. And especially, we also got reports that the Culture Minister, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, wants alcohol and cigarette sales to continue, or rather the ban of alcohol and cigarettes to go on until level 1. And there's also the debacle around the schools opening. What are some of the stories that caught your attention, Nosipho?
Good morning to you, Simpiwe, as well as the viewers. As you've already mentioned, the lifting of the ban for alcohol and cigarette sale is definitely one that caught my attention. But I think the one that I think caught my attention the most this week would definitely be the announcement made by Basic Education Minister Angie Motshekga of the reopening of schools for grade 7s and 12s. This is an issue that we know parents have debated over the course of time, and it's an announcement that was anticipated for a while. We know that the department did experience some delays with the announcement. Over the time, as reporters, we have spoken to, stakeholders within the education ministry, the trade unions, as well as parents, just to get a sense of their expectations and how soon they would like to see the reopening of schools. So when that announcement was made, I was actually monitoring the story on social media, and I saw the response from parents, most of which felt as though the department was not able to instill confidence in them with regard to the opening of schools. I've also this week, some of my stories have included the private schools, the private sector. I've spoken to some parents as well who are also quite concerned about the reopening of schools, because we know with the private sector, the schools are quite small. There were low volumes of pupils, which means that some schools might see more pupils in other grades returning to school, according to the private sector association for private schools. So yeah, that was for me one of the interesting topics. I think parents will be keeping a close eye as well on what precautions and measures that Education Ministry will be taking in preparing for the reopening of schools. So yeah, it will be quite an interesting story to follow.
Yeah, so it will be quite interesting to see whether parents will definitely be taking their kids to school. Whether we've heard in the past weeks saying that they will not be taking their kids to school because that is a huge risk. That was a reporter, Nosipho Mncube, just sharing with us some of the stories that made headlines the past week. It is 8 o'clock. Let's take a look at it.